The key to expanding your knowledge is reading. Perhaps not all readers are leaders, but all leaders are readers. And how much do you read? Well, look around you. The highest paid Americans read an average of 2 to 3 hours per day. The lowest paid Americans don't read at all. In fact, these statistics are shocking. According to the American Booksellers Association, 80% of American families did not buy or read a single book in the last year. 70% of American adults have not been into a bookstore in the last 5 years. 58% of adults never read another book after they leave high school, including 42% of university graduates. According to USA Today, 43.6% of American adults read below the 7th grade level. To all intents and purposes, this means that they are functionally illiterate. Fully 50% of high school graduates can neither read their graduation diplomas nor fill out an application form for a job at McDonald's. Many large companies that advertise continually looking for qualified people are forced to reject fully 95% of all applicants because of a lack of basic reading skills. Last year in America, $5.4 billion was spent in the movie industry. This was the highest amount ever spent in a single year. If you look around you, you'll see movie stars and movie industry news in every newspaper and on half the magazines on every news rack. They are the constant subject of news and entertainment on television and radio. It is as though we are surrounded by and immersed in a movie culture. But what you probably don't know is that last year Americans spent more than $25 billion on books. They purchased more than 1 billion books from all sources. In fact, this knowledge age has been dubbed the age of the book. If you go into the home of a wealthy person, what's the very first thing you see? And the answer is a library. The wealthier the people and the larger the home, the more likely it is that they will have a large, fully stocked library. If you go into the home of poor people, what's the very first thing you see? That's right, the biggest darn television they can afford. Now here's a question for you. Did the people become wealthy and then buy the books? Or did they buy the books and read them and then become wealthy? I think the answer is clear. The chicken does come before the egg. I had a friend who graduated from high school without learning to read. He was upset to find that the only jobs he could get were minimum wage laboring jobs, digging ditches, planting trees, and sweeping floors. He came from a good home and a good neighborhood, but all he could get was dead-end jobs. And all his friends who got out of high school without learning to read were in the same situation. After a year and a half of this frustrating work, he came to me and asked for my advice. I told him that he needed to increase and upgrade his education. He told me that he didn't really like to read. Reading big paragraphs actually made him tired, he said. I told him that he had better go to a community college and take a course on reading. He was reluctant to do it, but he was even more reluctant to continue working as a laborer. So he went to a community college at night for 2 years. He learned how to read proficiently and well. As a result, he applied to a technical school and took a degree in biomedical electronics. It took him 2 more years to graduate, but he was then immediately hired by a large hospital supply company to sell medical instrumentation to hospitals and clinics. Within 5 years, he was earning more than $50,000 per year. He had a home and a car and a great life. And he told me later that the advice to learn to read and upgrade his education was the turning point in his career. Here are some keys for you for upgrading your knowledge through reading. They've been successful for me and for thousands of other people who are now highly paid leaders in their industries. The very best books to read are those written by men and women who are actively working in their fields. They are books written by experts, by practitioners of their crafts. Stay away from books written by university professors and management consultants. These people usually do not have the in-depth understanding that comes from working all day long, year after year in a particular field. The wonderful thing is that you can buy a book full of ideas that someone else has taken 20 years to learn and then to write about. For the price of a book, you can get the knowledge that has cost that other individual years of time and thousands of dollars to accumulate. Remember, all you need is one good idea to change the whole course of your life. Here's an important point. Every problem that you could ever have has already been solved by someone, somewhere. And the solution that that person has found to your problem is written in a book or magazine and is available to you if you can find it. If there's an idea out there that can help you, that can save you thousands of dollars and months or years of hard work, and you don't have the idea, it's just as if that idea didn't exist at all. This is why successful people are always orienting themselves so that they're continually bombarding their mind with new information and new ideas. Remember, you may be exposed to 100 ideas before you're hit by the one idea that you need at that moment to make a major difference in your life and work. The rule is that it requires a high quantity of ideas to find the one or two quality insights that you require. Build your own library. Buy your own books. Don't check them out and then take them back. When you buy a book, underline the key points with a colored pen or highlighter. Make the books your own property. When I first started buying and marking up my own books, I found that it might take me a few hours to read a book the first time, but then I could read all of the key points through in less than an hour. Now I quickly read a book and then dictate all the most valuable ideas to be typed up and reviewed later. Speed reading is a skill that you can and you should learn with a little practice. There's a complete description of the speed reading process in my audio program, Accelerated Learning Techniques. But let me give you a simple method here that can double and triple the speed at which you read any book. It's based on what is called the OPIR method, or OPIR. These four letters stand for Overview, Preview, In-View, and Review. Here's how you use this simple technique. Before you plunge into a book, always start with an overview. Read the front of the book and the back. Read the biography of the author and make sure that this is a person who really knows what he or she is talking about. Read the table of contents and ask yourself whether or not these ideas are of interest to you. Read the appendix and the index quickly to see what information sources the author used. If you get a good feeling about the book and you think that it has some value for you, you go to the next stage. The second stage of rapid reading is the preview stage. This is where you take the book and you page through it from cover to cover, one page at a time. You read the chapter headings and paragraph headings. You look at the graphs and the charts and diagrams. Read the first lines of as many paragraphs as you can. Read a couple of paragraphs through to get a feeling for the style of the author. Determine whether or not you are comfortable with the book and whether or not you enjoy the way the author expresses himself. The best way to save several hours in reading any book is to throw it away and not read it at all. One of the best of all time savers is to decide in advance that the book is not of sufficient value for you to spend several hours reading it. If after the overview and the preview you want to read the book, you ask yourself, why? When you ask yourself this question, it forces you to think about what you can gain from the book and how you can apply it to your life. This is called reading on purpose. The more relevant and applicable new information is, the more likely it is that you will remember it when you're finished. The third stage of reading is the in-view. If you're reading a non-fiction book, start with the chapter that is most interesting to you, and then stop if you don't feel like proceeding. Sometimes an excellent book will have only one or two chapters that are relevant to you and your life right now. What you'll find is that if the information is not immediately helpful to you, you'll forget it anyway, so why read it in the first place? As you proceed with the in-view, make as many notations as possible. Underline key sentences and phrases. Use exclamation points, stars, and quotation marks in the margins. Circle key ideas. Make it easy for you to come back and find the facts that you thought most important. The final stage of the OPIR method is to review the book. No matter how smart you are, you have to go over key points 3 or 4 times before they stick in your memory. But once you've marked up a book properly, you can flip through it quickly in as little as an hour and get the essence of the entire book. Where do you get the best business books? It's simple. Join the various business book clubs advertised in the business magazines. Get the 4 free books that they offer at a reduced rate, and add to your library by buying 1 or 2 of their choices each year. In no time at all, you'll be one of the best informed people in your circle. Another thing you can do is to subscribe to SoundView Book Summaries. This is an organization that summarizes 2 or more top business books every month. They hire professionals who condense the key points of the book into an easily readable 4 to 8 page format. You can keep abreast of the best that is being written for business people by getting a key synopsis of these books each month. Another thing you can do is subscribe to Fast Track. This organization summarizes 2 business books on an audio tape every month. You can listen to the summaries with all the key points in your car. I've personally gotten a lot of great ideas from these summaries without ever having to read the entire books. In expanding your current knowledge, it's important that you subscribe to the key magazines and publications in your field. If you're in business at all, you should subscribe to Fortune and Forbes. If you're in sales, you should subscribe to Success, Selling, and Personal Selling magazines. If you're in senior management, you should be taking the Harvard Business Review and perhaps the Sloan Business Review. The best way to find out what to read is to ask the most successful people in your field what they read. What books would they most recommend? What magazines do they enjoy the most and read the most regularly? By the law of cause and effect, if you read what the very best people read, you will soon know what the very best people know. You will develop the winning edges in your field. With magazines, use the rip and read method to save time. Go to the table of contents of the magazine. Circle the articles that you feel would be important to you. Go straight to those articles and tear them out. Throw the rest of the magazine away. Put the torn out articles into a file and put the file in the back of your briefcase. Then, whenever you have a few moments, pull out your rip and read file and go through the articles with a red pen or a highlighter. There are 2 types of reading: maintenance reading and growth reading. Maintenance reading is the current magazines and publications which keep you up to date with your field. Growth reading, on the other hand, are the books that you read that actually increase your knowledge and understanding in your field. They enable you to grow rather than just to stay even.